Three.
Hi everyone, my name is Britain Cline, Ad Sales Manager, and welcome to this week's edition of Marketing Minutes by Scuba Diving Industry Magazine.
And I'm William Cline, publisher, and thanks for watching this new series. If you're a scuba-related company out there and you have a product or service you'd like to talk to us about or some marketing ideas, reach out to us. We'd love to hear you.
Definitely.
So, Brenton, who do we have today with us?
So today we have Steven Jamroz, Vice President of Marketing at Divers Alert Network, or DAN for short. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, William and Britain. Thanks for having me on. It's always great to see you guys and to talk business, see what's going on in the industry. And, it seems like we're just catching up from a couple weeks ago after the Scuba Show, which was a great event. So glad to be with you today.
Well, definitely. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining us, Steve. Britton, I've been a DAN member since 1990. Did some math earlier and it's kind of shocked how long it's been. And we're honored to have Steve on our show today.
Absolutely.
I just did a show a couple weeks ago. He's referencing out in Long Beach called DANcast.
Right.
Yeah, we recorded a show. So we're going to talk a little about that today. So I can't wait to hear what we got on deck for today.
Very, very cool stuff and awesome conversations. But Steve, just to kind of jump right into it, DAN's Dive Professionals program offers dive shops and instructors access to risk mitigation tools, safety protocols, and liability insurance. In your own words, maybe how can retailers leverage DAN partnerships to reduce a shop's liability and maybe improve client trust and position themselves as maybe a safety first destination?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Britain. And it's such a core element of our business. Really, it's really what DAN has done since 1980. We've been here helping divers and dive professionals and businesses. But one of the first things I would give or advice I'd give to someone is to lead by an example. Set the example for students, your customers. Be a DAN member, but not only be a DAN member. Become a DAN professional member or a business member. And that's really easy to do. You can do that all online on the website at dan.org. There's a couple of simple steps and a simple form to fill out. And that really gives you access as a business member to a host of, resources and information. At DAN, that's what we're all about. We have teams of safety experts, researchers, engineers, and they're just generating content to keep divers safer. So, once you're a business member, a professional member, all that stuff's available to you online. And it's really kind of segmented into two buckets, I would call it. We have information for the divers. So as your customers come to you and they become students and they get their open water, we've got a host of health resources. We've got return to diving safely materials on the website. We've got a traveler's medical guide. There's tons of digital reference guides on there for download in PDF format. Wow. They range from how to run out of air to, how to equalize your ears. That's really a big one here, Dan. Our phone rings, quite often about ear problems in diving. Yeah, that's a top concern for divers. But even more than the diver, we're here to support the operators and the businesses, and we've got a wealth of information of safety tips. There's safety assessment programs which you can get on the website. It gets into things such as air quality. There's a whole bunch of EAP stuff on the website, safety checklists, and I mean it just goes on and on. But the wealth of information we have for divers and for businesses to really set themselves apart and to going back to that setting the example of safety, I think that is really important.
Absolutely. That's so true. The next topic I want to jump into is a really hot topic in the diving industry. Since Vince and Buckley stopped offering liability insurance to PADI members a couple of years ago, there's really been a giant void out there, and Dan has stepped into that mix to offer liability insurance. Can you give us an overview about some of your liability programs? And I know that you guys have teamed up with one of our writers, Tec Clark, and has written some coursework for you to actually offer some sort of incentives and discounts, correct?
So awesome.
As I recall.
Yeah, that's a great question, William, because it's as we call it at DAN now, it's liability season, and it's kind of the period during the year we get, a lot of renewals and new policies from instructors and dive businesses coming through. Our program, you can enroll at any point in the year, but I think it was kind of started with the V&B. Those policies kind of got picked up from Dan in 2016 when we kind of got into the business. So it's busy season for us here at Dan, and we're happy to be here to serve the professional market too. Give a lot of credit to Bill Ziefel, our CEO of Dan. He really realized the void, and we needed to be there for the industry to give the instructors that protection in the rare case of an incident or accident. So we're proud to have the program. It was really a logical extension of our dive accident insurance program and membership. It's really in our wheelhouse, in our core area of expertise. So in that program you asked about, so there's the professional liability. So that kind of is just as it sounds. So a dive professional can protect themselves with a policy. We have a group professional policy option where, a shop, they can put all their instructors under one policy, which makes it really convenient. They can get them all enrolled online. That process has become very streamlined over the last couple of years. And we also have the general liability option, just for general insurance at the shop. Another interesting thing to note this year, we added the optional Avelo endorsement this year, which has been kind of a hot topic in the industry. I know you saw it out there in Long Beach, and it's kind of the thing everybody's talking about. So we have that endorsement available for our customers. This program's available in the U.S., but it's also available in the Caribbean and select territories. It does get a little complicated because of the insurance, laws and regulations and restrictions. So, there's a select list of places such as, Bonaire, Curacao, St. Lucia, Caymans, and others. But unfortunately, we're not able to extend that coverage everywhere yet. So we're working on it. We're building the program. It's been going really well, and getting a lot of good feedback on it. Just a couple of things I'd like to share, because, insurance is always a sensitive topic for a lot of people. I think at Dan, we're a little different. We kind of view ourselves more than an insurance company. We do have insurance, but really a safety organization first and foremost. And that's really been our core mission since 1980. Since that time, we've been able to reinvest over $100 million in dive safety programs to make diving safer. And I know, in Frauke and the research team, and they've always got studies going on. They've got bubble studies, and a lot of the safety protocols, the flying after diving, that all came out of Dan research, and that's the money that was reinvested in the program. So, we also got in-house medical, legal, and risk folks under one roof. We are very much the experts in this space, and we've got the resources at our disposal to to handle all the things associated with a claim. So there's a lot of great things and a lot of reasons why you'd want to choose Dan as your liability insurance provider, and that's just one aspect of our business, but it's been growing, and we're happy to be able to offer the coverage for the businesses and professionals.
Well, I'm
Definitely.
thankful.
Go back.
Very thankful.
Yeah, I want to go back, because this is also important, just to touch on. You mentioned Tec Clark at the start of this segment here, and we launched a program. It's continuing education for dive professionals. Last year was our first year, and we had the vision and the foresight that now that we have all these professionals coming to Dan, it's really our responsibility to keep them up to date on what's going on. So we partnered with Tec Clark, and we delivered an online course. It was about an hour long. It had different modules, and it just delivered key pieces of information that pros and businesses should know, to keep themselves safer, to mitigate the chances of a claim, an injury, an accident. And we got great feedback from Tech's program. This year, we just launched it on May 1st. We launched what we call here season 2 of the continuing education, is the boat diving program. You've maybe seen that in ads. I know we've got some ads running in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine with you guys. It's the one with the computer. But basically what we're offering is a discounted rate on the liability premium for the pros and businesses who go through and take that course. There's, like I said, it's about an hour worth of programming. And this year's course covers everything from, injuries, accidents, boarding the boat while underway, getting back on, after the dive. We had Joe Poe in there. He did a segment about all the legal considerations that it happens, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, Joe is an expert in this space because he sees the incident reports. He, handles the claims that come in. And it's been a really great program. So that's just another thing that we do to, try to keep the industry safer. It's not just divers,
Absolutely.
but, divers, the industry as a whole, because, it's important, I think, and we chat a lot. We chat a lot about numbers and data, and that's always fascinating to get your insight. But, how do we grow this business? How do we give people comfort and peace of mind to say, okay, let's try this. Let's get into this sport. So those are some of the things that we do, as our part here in the industry.
That's very cool.
For sure, yeah. Very thankful to have you in that space, but not even to change gears, but just to shed a little bit of light. I know Dan's launched a very highly successful podcast, the DANcast. Could you tell us a little bit about that program, its objective, and maybe what sort of success you've had reaching different industry icons?
Good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure, Britton. And it's kind of funny as I sit here today with you guys. It's a little bit of a role reversal because I'm usually on the other side of the desk and microphone, like putting all the planning together and getting this stuff together. But yeah, we've had a podcast. But before I even get into that, I want to kind of take a step back for a second. So this really started, the genesis of the podcast was kind of during COVID, and when COVID hit, we all got hurt in the industry. Yeah. The trade show circuit kind of got shut down, so we needed a way to communicate with our members, to keep communicating with the dive businesses out there. So totally. We literally made the decision to demo our basement floor. We were literally ripping out walls and ceiling and everything else. We basically built an in-house television studio, and nice. For a couple years, like during COVID and a little bit after that, we did webinars, and the webinars were I would say they were pretty successful. They were more of like a lecture format, and they got into really deep topics on dive science and all kinds of things like that. And it kind of petered out a little bit, and it was also a very heavy lift. And, we kind of looked at this and said, we want to continue something, but what could it be if it wasn't a formal webinar? Right. And that's when we came up with the idea of the DANcast. And really, the first DANcast kind of happened by accident. We didn't actually know we were starting it. That's and awesome. Last year, I made a trip down to Naples to talk to Andy Casagrande. He's one of our DAN members. You probably know him from his work on Shark Week. And we found a studio down there, and we had a podcast, and it was amazing. It was just the feel, the delivery, the authenticity of the interaction, the dialogue. It was just very real. So we're like, okay, we could be onto something here. So, definitely. Me and my team sat down, we put this traveling road show together, so to speak, and we've got a kind of mobile setup, and we've been doing it. We did it at DEMA last year. We had about 20 guests, I believe. Wow. We did it again when we just saw you out in Long Beach. Yes. And it really ties into our marketing message and our campaign. You've probably seen it out there. It's the Every Diver campaign, and we at DAN really strongly believe that every diver should be a member for all the the safety resources, all the protections that you can get with our insurance products. And the problem with that is that selling insurance and membership, it's not super interesting. It's a little bit dry. So having the DANcast and talking to people, it's really made it interesting. It's made it so people can connect with our business, our brand, and our product. And people love listening to stories, and it's been a really cool way to sit down with people from across the dive industry. It started with Andy by accident almost, and we've had doctors, researchers, medical professionals, photographers,
Hollywood
explorers,
stars.
Hollywood stars.
Liz,
we've had you on there, so yeah. it's been really, really cool. And not only is he talking to the people, but we see it in the metrics. And you're a metrics guy. You love the data. We've had over 50,000 views since we launched the
Sheesh,
show or
amazing.
shows in January, and it's over 3,600 hours watched of these podcasts. So we've seen a huge spike in the traffic. And what we're finding out is like people are consuming media different. I'm a media guy. I have a background in media, and people don't have long attention spans anymore. We're rolling it out on social. We're doing, shorts, YouTube shorts, and we're seeing the views and the interactions just go through the roof. So it's been a very positive story for us. I think it's really on brand and on message for what we're doing with every diver. And yeah, we're going to continue to push it along, but it's been super fun to work on.
Well,
That's
that was
amazing.
great. I really enjoyed being on the show too.
It's fantastic.
So,
Yeah.
how can retailers and instructors really jump in back to the business side of things, utilize your brand affiliation, or utilize being affiliated with Dan to help with their consumer messaging, maybe co-branded assets to help them stand out in the local market? Can you address that for a bit?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think it's maybe touched on a little bit in the first one we talked about today, but I would encourage every professional in business to get involved with Dan. And like I said, it starts with that professional membership or business membership, and making safety a priority. I think it does make you different as a business. You don't want to be out there competing on price, because we all know where that goes. It just goes
Definitely.
down and down, and
Right.
and it's not a winning solution. And I spend a lot of time on the road talking to businesses, and I think it's important to know what's going on out there. And I talk to some of these folks, and they say they've got three pillars that really support their business. They've got the training part of the business, they've got the equipment sales, and then they have the trips and travel, and they kind of rely on those pillars to really keep the business going. But I think I'd add a fourth one in there. I'd say safety. Put that another pillar into your arsenal, and make it a priority. We're just about to launch this year a retail marketing kit that will be available for Dan members.
Oh, cool.
You'll be able to order that. Yeah, it's really cool, because we spend so much time in our marketing efforts, and we want to make sure that the tools get to the shops. That's really where the rubber meets the road. And just another kind of fun story here, and I know you'll appreciate this one, is we did a survey recently at the end of last year, because I'm looking at things from the marketing standpoint. It's how do we best utilize our dollars?
Right.
And we did a survey, was what most influenced you to become a Dan member? And I think there was almost 700 respondents. We had a good sample size, and the choices were trade show, magazine ads, social media, banner ad, website. It goes on and on, but there was also the dive shop in the business, and the dive shop in the business was far and away a huge part of that pie. So people are really trusting their pros. They're trusting the businesses. Their people are literally putting their lives in the hands of their instructor when they come into the industry. So
Definitely.
their opinions and viewpoints, affiliations, they carry a lot of weight. And we're trying to give those folks more tools, better tools, where they can market Dan. But we've got stickers. I always encourage shops to put stickers on the front door, so that person walking in the door, they know right away that this is a Dan affiliated shop. Use all of our programs. We have tons of programs online. I touched on some of them, but really the student membership program, that's a huge program that's available to businesses to differentiate themselves. That program basically provides up to $25,000 of dive accident insurance during a student's entry-level training. So if a tank falls on someone's toe and they break their toe, they fall off a ladder, something like that, they've got basically free insurance through this program. And this is a program that's, it's subsidized by Dan. It's all the great support that we receive from divers everywhere. It allows us to reinvest that money into safety programs like that. But, that's just one example. Becoming a member gets you a discount on oxygen and first aid kits through our online store. We just revamped the online store. It's a much nicer shopping experience. There's all kinds of products on there. But really, the list just goes on and on. There's so many things that Dan does, to help businesses be successful. I would just encourage everybody out there, if you're either, not aware of all the programs, go to the website at dan.org. Also, feel free to pick up the phone. We have a whole team of customer service, member service team there, to answer questions, and they can guide you around all the different programs, because there are a lot of them. We probably couldn't go through all of them here today, but that's what we're here for. Pick up the phone and to see how we can help you.
Dan covers so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, your programs, the insurance, we didn't even talk about travel insurance today. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we just don't have enough time for, because it's really amazing how encompassing Dan is. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you're a professional out there or a dive shop, team up with Dan.
Absolutely.
It's the smartest thing you can do. Dan, Steve, thanks for being on our show. We look forward to seeing you at DEMA. I assume you're going to have your mobile studio set up there as well for DANcast?
Yeah, we'll be doing some more filming. We're going to continue the DANcast, and we're going to keep telling the story of every diver. And I think it's super interesting, and there's something there for everybody. Depending what your angle, your interest in diving or the industry is. And we'd love to talk to you. If you have an interesting member story, I'm always looking for members to tell their stories of how we've helped them, and the things that we hear and the kind of the testimonials that we get back. It's really it makes me feel good to know that we're doing good out there for the divers. So reach out to us.
It's so true. Everybody does have a story. We didn't, the little video clip that we showed of the DANcast was Liz Parkinson, of course, which is a famous underwater Hollywood stunt woman, but that was Britain's instructor.
Absolutely.
At Stuart Coast many years ago as a child. So
I think maybe I had to be 10, 11
years
old, something like that.
So Britton, what do we got planned for the DEMA show?
Yeah.
I think, we might just try to take our studio on the road and kind of similar to the Long Beach show. We'll try to have our setup there and do what we can. So as the show approaches, definitely look for more details.
And you're invited back on the show at DEMA for
We
sure.
have to. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. For a follow-up.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
We'll talk all things DEMA.
Yeah, it's always great to talk to you. And, the shows are such a great way for, the industry professionals to get together and to, there's unfortunately not that many left. Obviously we've got DEMA, which is the big trade, and then, the two shows on the coast for consumer. So, but I was encouraged. After Long Beach. The traffic was good. I think the venue was good. So interesting to see what they do to that show and if they can get it to grow at all. But
they got some pretty innovative ideas. We actually had Mark Evans on our podcast at the show itself.
That's right.
And he talked about some pretty interesting things, doubling the size of the venue and adding a lot of interactive, kind of similar to what they do at ADEX. So it sounds like he's got some really cool stuff.
Fingers crossed, some cool stuff coming from them.
So that's it for today. Thanks again, Steve, for being on. And we look forward to chatting next time, right, Britton?
Totally.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the time, guys. I appreciate being able to tell the Dan story to those people who aren't familiar. So thank you very much.
Pleasure and an honor.